In recent weeks, the spotlight has fallen on the long-anticipated depositions of former President Bill Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. The release, or in some cases delayed release, of these testimonies has sparked intense debate across the United States, highlighting political tensions, public curiosity, and the ongoing scrutiny of connections to Jeffrey Epstein. While some observers see the depositions as part of a broader political narrative, others emphasize the legal and evidentiary implications of what these sessions reveal. The controversy began with Republican lawmakers' handling of the deposition takes. According to multiple reports, members of Congress delayed the public release of the videos, prompting criticism from journalists, analysts, and political commentators. Critics argue that this delay was intended to manipulate the narrative in favor of former President Donald Trump, framing the depositions as vindicating him while minimizing scrutiny of his involvement in matters related to Epstein. Supporters of the Republicans, however, maintain that confidentiality was necessary to protect the legal process and to ensure that sensitive information about victims and witnesses was handled appropriately. Eyewitness accounts and press reports indicate that the tapes have already been reviewed internally by congressional committees and selected staff. In public statements, some Republicans suggested that the depositions confirmed Trump's exoneration in matters pertaining to Epstein. Yet, media analysis and fact-checking organizations have pointed out that such characterizations may not reflect the full scope of the testimonies. According to journalists covering the proceedings, Bill Clinton's deposition included detailed accounts of interactions with Epstein and discussed historical contexts, including real estate transactions, social interactions, and alleged overlaps in travel. Similarly, Hillary Clinton's testimony provided insight into her knowledge and awareness of Epstein-related activities, as well as the broader implications of political connections and influence. A critical point of contention revolves around statements made by MAGA-aligned Republican officials. Several of these lawmakers have publicly stated that Trump was fully cleared by Epstein survivors, and that evidence confirms his lack of wrongdoing. Yet reports indicate that these claims may not fully align with the evidence presented. Some journalists have noted that survivors' statements focused primarily on the desire to have Trump questioned rather than declaring him exonerated. In one exchange, a reporter asked a Republican lawmaker whether any survivor explicitly stated that Trump was cleared of all wrongdoing. The response suggested that no such direct statement had been made, highlighting the potential discrepancy between public statements and documented testimony. The involvement of high-profile political figures on Epstein's private plane has also been a source of debate. Publicly, Republican officials have emphasized Bill Clinton's flights on Epstein's jet, while downplaying or omitting reference to Trump's known flights. According to court documents, flight logs, and investigative reporting, Trump was on Epstein's plane multiple times, and federal prosecutors have noted that witnesses and other documentation indicate interactions with minors on several occasions. This has fueled further discussion about transparency, selective reporting, and the role of political narratives in shaping public perception. In addition to these high-profile depositions, other aspects of the Epstein investigation remain critical to understanding the broader context. FBI 302 reports, witness statements, and other legal documentation continue to be partially redacted or withheld from the public, leaving gaps in the record that complicate assessments of individual accountability. Some of these documents reportedly reference interactions involving Trump and other prominent figures, although full context and legal interpretation remain the domain of the courts. Analysts emphasize that the incomplete release of documents can lead to misinterpretation, speculation, and partisan framing. The sexual misconduct allegations against Trump further complicate the narrative. Beyond Epstein-related matters, Trump has faced civil judgments related to sexual assault, public comments captured on audio, and widespread reporting on behavior toward women. These include statements in which Trump described actions with women that many have characterized as inappropriate or predatory. Such historical context is relevant when evaluating claims of exoneration, as political messaging may selectively highlight or omit aspects of the public record to suit partisan objectives. Media coverage of the depositions has varied widely, reflecting differences in editorial approach, audience priorities, and political orientation. Some outlets have emphasized the notion that Trump was cleared by certain statements or evidence, while others have focused on contradictions, incomplete information, and unresolved legal questions. This divergence underscores the challenges in reporting on complex, high-profile legal proceedings, the need to balance factual reporting with narrative clarity, the sensitivity of victim testimony, and the political stakes involved. One particularly notable point in public discourse has been the discussion of Epstein's properties, including the Zorro Ranch in Texas. This location, previously owned by Epstein, has been cited as a site associated with sex trafficking operations. Following Epstein's death, the property changed ownership and has reportedly been repurposed for other uses, including as a retreat facility. Public discussion of these developments intersects with political endorsements and the broader debate about responsibility and accountability for sites associated with criminal activity. The deposition proceedings themselves have drawn attention for their historical significance. Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton are among the highest-ranking U.S. officials ever deposed in a congressional context, highlighting the unprecedented nature of the investigation. Legal analysts note that such depositions, even when conducted under confidentiality agreements, provide important insights into institutional accountability, the limits of executive privilege, and the interplay between political influence and legal obligations. Throughout the proceedings, questions of credibility, interpretation, and political messaging have been central. Republican officials often assert that Clinton's testimony supports claims that Trump had no wrongdoing. However, independent reporting suggests that nuances and qualifiers in the testimonies may not fully align with such statements. This underscores the importance of considering primary sources, contextual evidence, and legal documentation when evaluating politically charged claims. Survivors of Epstein's trafficking operations have also been vocal about their perspectives. Advocacy groups and media interviews indicate that many survivors emphasize accountability for all individuals involved, rather than blanket exoneration of any particular figure. Their statements often focus on the need for thorough investigation, protection of victims' rights, and transparency in the legal process. Analysts note that mischaracterizing survivor statements for political purposes can undermine credibility and hinder broader efforts to address trafficking and abuse. Another dimension of the discussion involves financial transactions and real estate dealings connected to Epstein and associated figures. In particular, reports reference business interactions between Trump and Epstein, including real estate acquisitions and sales. These transactions, while not directly criminal in nature, provide context for interpersonal dynamics and conflicts that have been referenced in testimonies and media coverage. Understanding these details requires careful review of public records, financial documents, and corroborating evidence. The political implications of the depositions extend beyond individual reputations. The framing of these proceedings has become part of broader political strategies, messaging campaigns, and partisan debate. Republicans and Democrats alike have leveraged the proceedings to bolster narratives about accountability, bias, and justice. Analysts caution that selective reporting, delayed disclosure, and emphasis on particular statements can shape public perception in ways that may diverge from the underlying evidence. International attention to the depositions has also been notable. Given the global prominence of figures like Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, and Donald Trump, developments in these proceedings attract coverage from major media outlets around the world. Observers highlight the ways in which domestic political dynamics influence international perceptions, particularly regarding U.S. institutions, the rule of law, and the handling of sexual abuse and trafficking cases. Transparency remains a recurring theme. Many journalists, legal experts, and public commentators argue for the timely release of deposition videos, transcripts, and associated documentation. They contend that withholding information, even for procedural reasons, contributes to speculation, political distortion, and erosion of public trust. Conversely, some legal professionals emphasize the need to protect confidential witness information, maintain the integrity of ongoing investigations, and prevent potential interference with related legal matters. The broader context of Epstein-related investigations continues to unfold. Federal and state authorities have investigated multiple properties, business associates, and networks associated with Epstein. While Epstein's death in 2019 halted criminal proceedings against him, civil lawsuits, ongoing federal investigations, and congressional inquiries continue to generate new information. These investigations intersect with questions about the responsibility of political figures, the role of private actors, and the obligations of government institutions to pursue justice. From a legal perspective, depositions are intended to gather testimony under oath, providing a factual basis for potential proceedings. Analysts note that depositions do not equate to exoneration or legal judgment. Rather, they document witness accounts and evidence that may later be evaluated in courts or used for legislative oversight. Misrepresenting depositions as conclusive proof, therefore, can be misleading, regardless of political affiliation or intent. The handling of information also raises questions about media